Hey everyone, welcome. I'm super excited. We have Melissa Webb here. We're talking about writing and why you might be avoiding it. Are you? And if you're not avoiding it, because I think generally homeschoolers are like, oh, we know our kids have to write, but maybe we're just out, like we're just saying, oh, we'll just pick this curriculum and then we'll just go with it and just pray that it works. And I think that's one of the things that I love about, or I know that's one of the things I love about Melissa, is that what she does with kids is so much higher level than that. It's so much more interactive, so much more authentic. And I say that because I was a high school English teacher and for 7 years, and you know what? I learned is that when you are, so we have tons of papers, right? Paper, paper, paper coming out of our eyeballs. Now it's probably not on paper, but it used to be on paper, and we'd spend whole weekends just
Yes.
essays, just reading essays and giving feedback. For them not to even write again,
Yeah.
which is weird. And then somebody said to me one time, like, I don't give feedback on papers unless they're going to, like, we do a basic feedback, but I'm not correcting commas and stuff unless they're going to rewrite it. And I was like, oh, that's so fantastic. Yes. Why am they don't care. They don't care unless they're going to rewrite it. And one of the things I love about what Melissa does is she not only teaches them to write well, but she does it through feedback. And I
Mhm.
think that that's so important because our kids, a lot of the curriculums that we get, they don't get feedback. They
Yeah.
don't get feedback. They're just doing the curriculum and then I don't know, it works well. Or if you don't feel qualified to give them feedback or you feel like, I don't know, then it's just, okay, you're good. Let's just keep going through. And they don't know whether they're writing well or not, or they think. And I remember one time I was my freshman year of college, my roommate, she was in this program, this liberal arts program, and it has potentially, theoretically, philosophically, it was a fantastic program, but they never taught kids how to write, and they didn't come in knowing how to write because we don't teach kids a lot of times, unless you have a really good teacher, how to teach kids how to write well in school. So then she asked me to read her paper. It was like 12 pages of stream of consciousness, meaning it was just like her thoughts like coming circling back around 12 pages later. It was all over the place. And I'm like, I was like, what is happening? So ideally we writing is so important, and that's something we're going to talk about with Melissa today too. And that's one of the things I love about the way that she not only teaches writing, but she teaches kids how to think about writing. And it's so ingrained in every single aspect of our life that it's not even funny, because even if you're not writing, you're still using the techniques of writing. And I'm just like I'm just juiced about this. I'm so excited because
Mhm.
Melissa's amazing. So Melissa and I have known each other for a little while, and one of the things that I love about her is that she is a homeschool mama. She's was a credentialed teacher, and so I'm still credentialed. I'm still credentialed.
Mhm.
So, and she took a gap that she saw and she was like, this needs to happen. And she just filled it. And that's what I love about us homeschool mamas and people who just see things that need filling and we just go after it. So, Melissa, thank you for joining us today because I am so excited about this conversation. We're going to go a lot of places, and I hope you are ready to come with us because this is going to be fun. Thanks so much for joining us. And I would love for you to share a little bit about just why you're so passionate about writing in particular.
Yes. Well, first off, I just want to thank you so much, Cami, for doing what you do because you build community. And I think in the homeschooling world, that's one of the most important things that we can offer. Homeschooling's hard, and to feel like you're in it alone would be just difficult. And I just love what you do. And I'm really grateful that you've invited me to be a part of your community and that our communities can join together. So I really appreciate this opportunity to have this time together. Um, to answer your question, why I feel so passionate about writing is probably the same way I feel about what you do. As credentialed teachers, we just have this love of kids. Like I care about kids. I care about the next generation. And on top of that, I love homeschooling parents, especially the ones that are really committed to the rigor, who definitely want to embrace learning, the lifelong learning, like you always talk about. And they see that the value of something like writing is going to serve their children, not just for this year, not just to check the boxes of my third grader can, my seventh grader can, but are they really understanding the purpose behind writing, how we're going to use it, and the different ways that we're going to use it? And I was a classroom teacher like you at the elementary level, and I did spend my weekends with the old papers in hand
Right.
before everybody was typing things, and I would correct those essays all weekend long. And after I left the classroom, I joined a charter school that was supporting families that wanted to homeschool, and my job in that role was to meet with the families on a monthly basis, collect their samples, just make sure that everything was going well. And the one sticking point that came up every time was writing. And often I would see the same kind of writing every month. I just see another research paper. And it wasn't always well structured. And I'd say, well, what writing curriculum are you using? And there are so many great ones out there, but I think many of them are made with a classroom teacher in mind. And I wanted to create something for a family who was really struggling. And I came up with what I call my wow method. And it broke it down so that we would have one essay every month, quality over quantity. And I just knew in my heart that I could help kids go from like, I can't do this, I don't know how, or the mom who's like, I can't do this, I don't know how. And I knew that I could guide them through it. And that's kind of how it all started. Interestingly enough, I started online teaching back in 2012 when the idea was brand new, way before COVID. There wasn't even Zoom when I started online instruction. I used something called the big blue button. I don't know if you ever heard of that. A lot of people had it. And I even said to my supervisor who was leading this whole new online program, and I said, do you think anybody's going to show up online for the writing course? And she's like, I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot. And then I asked, of course, what every teacher asks, what curriculum do you want me to use? And she said, I don't know. It's an online class. I have no idea what to expect. So again, what I built, I developed around that. It took off. I ended up with a wait list after month one. And it was another homeschool mom who was moving to Idaho or somewhere. And she's like, you can make a business out of this. And I thought, I'm a classroom credentialed teacher. I'm not a business owner. But lo and behold, here we are. And I've been in business now for 7 years. This is our seventh year. So it's been
And you
amazing.
are doing fantastic. I'm so excited. And it's such a hugely important thing for us to do because I want you to address a little bit about why parents feel so like I'm not qualified for this. Why do they feel
Mhm.
that way?
Well, speaking from my personal experience, back when I was a student, I have this moment where I remember being in the sixth grade. We had just moved and I was in a new district and I was starting middle school. And I had the most amazing sixth grade history teacher of all things who asked us to write an essay. And I remember thinking, a what? I don't know what that is. And my teacher just assumed that we all did, and maybe everybody else did. I really don't know. I was in 6th grade, so I was what, 12 years old maybe?
Mhm.
And I wasn't confident enough to ask, "Hey, can you explain what that is?" So I remember struggling and I thought, "I don't like writing," which wasn't really true. It's that I didn't like not having a writing process because I wasn't sure what to do. And other parents have told me similar stories, like it was just assumed that everybody understood the multi-step process, like it was somehow ingrained in us, when in fact it's not. We're not born great writers. Writing is a skill, and I do believe that everyone can improve that skill with the right instruction, with a supportive community. And yeah, and I would just encourage families. I know it can be a little daunting, but you don't have to know everything. In fact,
Yeah.
it's good when our kids realize we don't know everything, but we
Mhm.
can still come along, help them, guide them with a process, take one step at a time, keep it fun, keep it engaging. Those are all the things I really encourage them to do.
You know what's funny about that? It reminds me, I love what you said about just the assumption that you know how to write, is that I was actually taught the writing process somewhat in high school.
Mhm.
I remember doing that, and one of my English teachers was really good about that. And then but the problem was is that as I went through college as an English major, I was told by professors that I wasn't a high level writer. I was very basic and simplistic, and I didn't use academic language and things like that. And I never thought I was a good writer until I
Mhm.
started writing and blogging, and I realized like, hey, I wow! Like, that was awesome. I love doing that. That was really cool. And it
That's
really
awesome.
broke the barriers. Like, actually not writing super academic, it's actually a good thing. Like, it depends on the context, of course, but in the way that I was writing, nobody wants to read that, like, graduate study level kind of academic writing. So it can be both ways. We can just have, like, just done what we didn't know, it just kind of made our way through without really any instruction, or had instruction and then just been like, no, you're actually not that good. You're not that good anyway. But
Well, and I do like to use this analogy. Writing falls under language arts. Writing
yes.
is an art. It's not a science. It's
Oh, I
not
love
like
that.
we're all
Yes.
going to sit here and agree that 3 times 4 is 12.
Hmm.
Writing is an art. So if we think of learning how to watercolor, nobody expects you to just be good at that on your first try. You're going to learn a process, you're going to learn the different steps. You're going to even finish that painting, you're going to come back to it a day or two later, you're going to be like, I think it would look better with some shading, maybe some light over here.
Yes.
And that's how we need to start looking at writing. It's an art. It's never meant to be done. It's never meant to be perfect. But like what you're sharing from your life experience is that you saw that with time, that skill grew. Just like music is a performing art, right? You don't learn a song in one day and just master it. No, you've got to put in the time, practice, you will get there.
Absolutely. I love that. That's one of the reasons why I loved when I was in college, I loved writing introductions and conclusions so much because they are the art part. And
Yes.
that part, to me, the middle was like, okay, I'll get through them. Like we'll have all our examples and everything. But like the art for me was the introductions and conclusions. That was fantastic. Now we're kind of geeking out about writing here, but I definitely want to talk more about like the thinking aspect of it and what the big picture of writing is, because I know that's something that you focus on with your students, and for
Mhm.
me it's such an important part of
Yeah.
thinking, and I know
Mhm.
that you talk about that too. So can you touch on that a little bit, like why is writing well so important?
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. I do believe writing is thinking on paper. And I think, especially now in today's ever evolving AI world, we're going to need to be very intentional with our thinking.
Yes.
And what we want to be cautious of is handing our thinking over to a computer to do it for us.
Mhm.
So, writing forces us to slow down and think about our thinking, organize our thoughts. So, whether somebody, say, reads a book or is listening to a conversation, watches something on YouTube, that person is going to create thoughts. It's just what we do, right? That's the human brain. We have something like 60,000 thoughts a day. So if we're not taking those thoughts captive with some intentionality, we're selling ourselves short. That's my belief. And so we need to get our thoughts out of our head and onto paper. I'm all for parents journaling as well as their children journaling. I mean,
Mhm.
one, it sets a good example, but writing can be done on so many different levels. It doesn't always have to be academic. It can just be in a journal. But when we get those thoughts out of our head and onto paper, it allows us to detach for a moment long enough to just look at our thoughts and now have thoughts about those thoughts. Do we like these thoughts? Do I really believe that thought? Do I really want to believe that thought? And so writing is so important. It teaches us more about ourselves and our thinking process. And that in turn is going to help our kids and ourselves make better decisions, support our opinions, explain our ideas, just be a better communicator. And you and I both know writing goes beyond academics. Here you were blogging. So whether our children are going to grow up and become business owners or teachers or mechanics or nurses, maybe they're going to be parents. No matter what, our life is filled with communication skills, and writing is one of those. And it's a really important one.
It is so true, and I love that you focused on the fact that it is not always academic, and for me, like, I'm not a huge journaler, I don't actually like to journal, but what I
Mhm.
do like to do is to take notes on things and organize my thoughts on paper. So,
Yeah.
I like to in an, like, non-narrative sort of way. So and I get journaling can be like that too, but I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of paper, and I always ask my Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy members, how often do your kids see you writing with a pen? And
Mhm.
that's one of the things, like, do you write your shopping list on your phone, or do you write it on a piece of, note card? Do your
Mhm.
kids write you have your kids write it for you? Like, that's one of the things that you can get little kids to do right away. And I was just actually thinking about this when I saw somebody who was a business owner talking about using AI, and he was saying, well, you don't even have to type it. You can just voice to text, And I was like, dude,
Mhm.
I get it. I get what you're saying, that it's faster, but you actually get better output when you're typing it, because you are thinking about what you're writing, and you're saying, as I'm doing my prompts into the AI and to
Mhm.
Claude and to ChatGPT, I'm saying, oh, wait, no, oh, I get, no, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe I do want this. Maybe doesn't matter. Maybe this is what we need. And this is the thinking process that you're talking about,
Mhm.
right? Same thing
Mhm.
goes with annotating a book. So when my son and when both of us, where I've taught him to do it too, whenever I'm in a book, we're writing in the book. We're taking
Yeah.
notes, we're annotating it
Thinking.
as we go. And I know a lot of you are like, writing in the book. Kids still do that. They're like, we can't write in the book. I'm like, you
I'm a
can.
big fan of Post-it notes. I am one of
Post-it
those
notes work
people.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're not gonna keep the book, go ahead and just use Post-it notes. That works
Yeah,
too.
if
But
you're
I
not gonna
love
keep
that
it,
you have him doing that. That's thinking on paper.
it is thinking on paper, and you can also, and what's cool is that you're having a conversation with the author, and then you can
Yes.
actually, if you're gonna write about it later, or you're gonna have a conversation about it later, you can go back and look at your notes, right? Look at questions,
Mhm.
things that you
Mhm.
have. You can be
Mhm.
like, "I don't understand what you're saying," right? And
Yeah.
you can
I
say, "Go ahead, yeah."
I just say I actually even have a couple novel units. We're starting to do novel units. And that
Nice.
is one of the things we also teach. The thinking is, on those little pieces of paper. And just quick tip to you homeschooling moms, if you go that route, consider color coding the post-it notes.
Mhm.
So like if it's a new vocabulary word, that could be a yellow post-it note. I mean, they have a whole rainbow of colors of post-it notes now. If you notice something that's figurative language, put that in a different color. If it's a question that you would ask the author, that's what prompted me, is what you just said. It's like having a conversation with the author.
Yeah.
So color coding those post-it notes to just kind of label the different things that you're noticing in the book is also a great idea.
Yeah, and then if Kenyon reads the book that I read after I read it, or vice versa,
Yes.
we have a conversation with each other, because then he's writing in a different color. And so
Love it.
we're seeing each other's notes. It's absolutely fantastic because you're getting more out of it. You're actually thinking about it in a much deeper way. And it doesn't have to be complicated.
Love
You
it.
don't have to write like a whole
Mhm.
sentence on each thing. I write a
Mhm.
word here and there. Yeah, I like this. Oh, this reminds me
Mhm.
of this.
Mhm.
Like, just like that. I do this when I do
Yeah.
this, or I just have a star system. Like, I have 1 star is like, that's a good note. 3 stars is like, remember this, that kind of thing. And you come
Clever.
up with your own stuff, which is really cool. That thinking on paper, man, it's everything. And I just had our scholarship coach friend, Dave, the scholarship coach, he was saying, and it's
Mhm.
important for scholarships too, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
everywhere, it's in everything. I love that. It's so important for us to be able to think through things one I know that all of us moms want our kids to be independent thinkers. And
Mhm, mhm.
if you want to be an independent thinker, you have to be able to organize your thoughts, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
when you start working with homeschool families and maybe you have kids that are struggling writers, what is the most common thing that you see a lot that that's making it harder for them?
Mhm, mhm. Definitely, I'd say that families often expect the final product before their child's been taught the full process. Writing is
Mm,
a process. And that full process always should start with making it really clear to your child what is the purpose for this thing they're going to write? Do
mhm.
you want them to be persuasive? Do you want them to be informative and leave their opinion out of it? Do you want them to write something entertaining? Those are the three core genres or writing foundations categories, whatever you want to call that. But in all three of those, that next step would be they should be researching with reliable sources. They should be taught a different way to take notes. There's not one right way, of
For sure.
course. Once they have notes scattered all over the place, they need to know how to organize those thoughts by putting them in an outline that's structured so they know I want to put this here and that point is going to go over here. Then they should, work on a first draft. There's just so many steps in the process. And so often students will tell me, and parents will say too, gosh, that's not how we've ever done it. We've just said, today I want you to write a paragraph on a summary
Yes.
of everything we just read about the Civil War. And I just think, oh my goodness, that's what a daunting task. It's so much better to break this down. It's more enjoyable for one. Our process is 1 month and one essay. I have a method that's a 4-week calendar, which I have as a freebie for everybody if you want that. But this takes time. And so I'd say that's probably the biggest error is just like, here's a blank paper, go ahead and write. And then we're surprised that they hate it. I would hate it.
Right. Right. And we all did that in school, right? I mean, we
Mhm,
said, okay, go ahead and we're gonna write write a sentence using each vocabulary word or something like that. And you have to come up
mhm,
with something like totally random or write
mhm.
about this. We give you a little sentence starter and we gotta go from there. And even the sentence starters are better than not having anything because the blank
Agreed.
paper is very daunting. Like you said, it just stares at you and you're
Mhm.
like, I don't
It's
know what to write.
intimidating. Mhm,
Yeah, and
mhm.
we even ask our kindergartners, our first graders to do that. Just have a blank piece of paper and write something on it. And you're like, that is so hard.
So hard.
It's so
So hard.
hard.
I remember in school, I don't know if you ever got this prompt, but it was like the first week of school and the same prompt every year, and I would dread it. What did you do this summer? Right? Like,
Yes,
no
yes.
direction, no instruction, like, we're supposed to just entertain an
Right.
audience with some captivating story about our summer. It's kinda crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, and the audience too is something that is important for us to remember. So, like, for
Yes.
when we're writing down, you just write me a paragraph about, like, World War II, what we just read about World War II. That it's so meaningless. It doesn't
Yes.
have a purpose in other places. It's just for like a quiz. It's basically a quiz, right? In a
Yes.
paragraph form. So knowing our audience, that's one of the things that I always talk about in when I was in the classroom and is really important. So knowing who you're writing to and that directs everything else. And then knowing and having an outside audience, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the most defeating feelings for children is to spend all this time. Maybe they do the full writing process even. They spend an entire month, they write an essay and they don't even have an audience. I mean, maybe
Such a good
mom looks
point.
at it and says, "I think that looks good. Let's put it in the binder." I mean,
Oh,
it feels wasteful. Why am I spending all this time writing if I don't have an audience? Which is why in our program, we have virtual meetings where students come on and they share bits and pieces as they're going through the writing process. They're sharing it out loud. They're getting some practice with public speaking, which is great. Most are uncomfortable at first, but they realize it's a safe environment. We're all writers. We're all here to help each other. It's a really wonderful community. And all of a sudden, now they're more engaged because somebody's going to care about the thoughts that they worked hard to put onto paper. And I think it's just a really important piece. And I think it's missing in a lot of homeschool families.
100,000% yes, absolutely. When kids see the application, I used to have my students in public school. We did a unit on different essays, different types of essays. So we do biography, we
Mhm.
do persuasive, we do all the things, and then I would have them take one of them and submit it to a publication, and
I love it.
for like I didn't, of course 99.9% of them didn't get published, but I did have a couple of kids actually get published. So
I love it.
it's important for them to know that those things exist in the outside world, and like you said, I feel like it does feel wasteful. It feels like oh, that's anticlimactic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So, thinking about I wanna get back to thinking more about, like, parents and how they do this. So, when if a parent feels like, "Okay, I've just been winging it," because I know a lot of parents, they look all over, and all the writing curriculums look fantastic on the first
Mhm.
get-go. If you don't, if you weren't an English teacher or whatever, you don't know what to look for, and it's totally normal. It's makes sense. Why would you? And so when we're just picking one and we've just been like, well, I hope it's working, or we've been supplementing and giving our kids things like write a paragraph here, write a paragraph there, or write an essay on this. And, or maybe they're just like kind of avoiding it altogether and
Mhm.
hoping that it works out. What real life homeschool world, sh- I'm never going to shit on anybody, but what could it look like if we're teaching it to be good writers?
So that's a great question. And I want to say, like, there are so many fabulous writing programs out there. I
Yes.
certainly wouldn't sit here and say I'm the only option or I'm the best option. I am the best option for a lot of families. We've helped hundreds of families, but you have to find the program that does work for you. So the number one thing in finding like the best approach is to find the thing that you're going to do and that you're going to
Mm.
stay consistent with. That's the key is doing the work, showing up, being really clear as to what it is you want from your child is important. Now, in our program, we create this monthly calendar and we ask families to work on writing 20 to 30 minutes daily. Now, one day they could just be researching, maybe not doing anything but taking some notes. Then one day they're turning those notes into the first part of their outline. It's not like every day they're writing an essay at all. It's like I said, a process. But if you just take little bites rather than sit for 3 hours in frustration and tears at the kitchen table, I don't know anybody who enjoys that. And so you have to find the consistency. There's a reason why the three core academic subjects are reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're the core of everything we do in society. We have to be able to do these skills. And so just devoting, hey, we'll work for 20 to 30 minutes every day. If one day you can't because you've got a busy day, sure, the next day you may work on it for 45 minutes. That's perfectly fine. But focus one step at a time, give really clear expectations of what it is you're expecting, um, the staying consistent. And I would say having a positive mindset really matters. I never have the goal of making a child want to love writing. I don't have that power to make a kid love writing, and that's not my goal. My mindset for them is, do you believe that we could do progress over time and certainly progress over perfection? I tell them right away, start looking for all my mistakes. I promise you, they'll be in my emails. They'll be in something I say or something in the video that you watch that was something instructional. You'll catch my mistakes. Feel free to point them out to me because I want you to realize I'm not trying to be perfect and I would never expect you to be perfect either. And I just think that frees a lot of children and parents from thinking that they have to do this just perfectly. That's never going to
Yes.
happen, and that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great point. And I love that you brought up that, doing just a little bit in different ways, it doesn't always have to look like let's write a paragraph today.
Yeah.
It can be totally different and it's still part of the writing process though. And that's important, just as important as when you sit down and draft, right? So I love that you pointed that out for sure. And I also want to point out that my son actually hated writing for quite a while because I pushed him too hard when he wasn't ready. And I did it in
Mhm.
a way that school does it. And that's one of the ways that I know. And it took us a long time to build that love of writing back up again. And
Mhm.
it is possible if your kid hates
Mhm.
writing
Mhm.
to build that back up. That's one of the
Mhm.
things I teach parents all the time is how to build that love of learning back up again in specific areas too. So your kid might still like learning, but just not like writing. And we can build that up and we just have to reset that. So that is something that is really important. My kids like he wanted to write an article. He asked me like, "Can I write an article on this?" And I was like, he read something and he felt really passionate about it and he was like, "Can I write I just read this and can I write my own article?" And I was like,
Sure.
okay. Like, that's
I
weird.
love that.
Like, he'd never asked that before. He hated writing. He didn't like it. He thought it was too hard. He just thought it was too long. It took too long because
Mhm.
he was a perfectionist and he had that perfect, it had to be perfect kind of thing. And I'm sure part of that came
Mhm.
from me as well until I changed my mindset about it. And then he's writing a book now.
Oh,
He's
I love
like,
it.
I mean, it's just, and it came from him. I didn't ask him to write a book. I didn't ask him to write an
Yeah.
article, but that is possible when they have great positive experiences. And that's one of the things I
Yes.
love about what you do is because you're giving them positive experiences. You're giving them that opportunity to share. Like, I'm sure you have kids like that share that one line that they love the most, right? That one
Mhm.
sentence that's their favorite that they
Mhm.
wrote. It's
Mhm.
so powerful. And for them to get positive feedback about that from even from their parents and from outside resources to or outside
Mhm.
sources, just fantastic. It's fantastic. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
what you just said too about that child led, like I hear about your son being able to explore the things of interest. It's one of the things that happens. So in the beginning of my business, I was creating all of the prompts for each semester.
Mm-hmm.
We always have a persuasive prompt, an informative explanatory prompt, and we always have a narrative prompt. And I noticed every semester, kids would be like, I like your prompt, Mrs. Webb, but I was thinking it would be even better if next time we wrote about this or that. And so we started this a year ago. And at the end of every semester, we have a contest, and the students get to submit their prompt ideas. They can submit their persuasive prompt ideas, their informative, their narrative prompt ideas, and then my team, we choose the ones that are most aligned with the standards that we're trying to cover. And then the kids vote on their favorites. And so that is just interest that they're pouring into the program. And it's probably why we have such a high retention rate. I have students who start with us in third grade and stay with us all the way to through eighth grade, because that's as far as I go.
That's fantastic. I love it. Yes, having in their ownership of that is really, really
Good.
important. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. And so, Melissa, where can we find you? Where can we get in touch with you? And I know that you mentioned already your calendar. Tell me a little bit about that 4-week writing calendar.
Yes, again, I have such a heart for the homeschooling parent who is out there absolutely trying just to do her best for her kids. And so any resources that I can offer up, I have a lot of free resources. And one of those is the 4-week homeschool writing calendar, where I break down what you do week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. In fact, next week, I'm even doing a free training for homeschool educators who want to do writing that makes more sense. So, by all means, you guys can head over to my website. It's writeonwebb.com, spelled like right, WRITEON, and then my last name, WEBB, two B's. And a pop up should come up. You can sign up for that free webinar. Would love that. As well, you'll get the 4-week calendar. I'm also doing a summer program. And this is new for me because I normally do very academic writing, but it's more of a creative writing. Again, I've just been listening to what students want. They want to learn how to write a book. So it's called the Summer Story Studio. It's going to be a 6-week program. And we're going to hopefully break out a 6-chapter book. And I'm just going to teach
Woo!
them the bits and pieces that they'll need to know. And we'll meet virtually. So people from everywhere are welcome to join that. And then I also do a podcast like Cami does. It's called Homeschool is a Work of Heart. So you can always find me there as well.
And Melissa's podcast is absolutely fantastic. I love it. Sometimes I'm listening to her and I'm just like, and yes, and yes. Say it again.
Thank
I
you.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. And all of these resources are available to you. All the links will be in the podcast. It will be in YouTube, will be wherever you're watching or listening to this. You will have that available to you. So definitely take advantage of that calendar and take advantage of that webinar that she's doing, because I think your next one's coming up too, right? The 16th, you said?
Yep. Next Tuesday.
Perfect. I love it. So even if you're listening to this on the podcast, you'll be able to get into that webinar. So I will make sure that is available to you as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. I feel like we
Thank
need to have
you.
more conversations of we could go on forever. So
We
we're
could.
geeking out a little bit today, and that's my favorite thing to do. So hope you're along with us in this journey. And if you found this valuable, please share it with somebody else. And if you resonate with me at all with anything that we're doing here, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and that really helps us get it out to more families who really, really need this information. So, thank you so much, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye bye.